Hello, Gooby here. I'm here with Doobie. She's chilling on the moss right behind me. Right here, watching the water come down the mountainside. Today, I'd like to talk about thinking you're a good person. It's a very curious thing. Well, the truth is, good and bad are just ideas that we came up with. The truth is, there's good and bad in everyone and everything. So there's a very curious thing that happens when you think you're a good person. When you identify with being a good person. When your identity is wrapped around the fact that you only do good things and not bad things. So I'd like to talk about that. The curious thing is, if you think you're a good person, it doesn't mean that you do good things, or that you have done good things, or that you will do good things. It just means you think of yourself as a good person. By thinking of yourself as a good person, it does not make you do good things. It does not prevent you from doing bad things. Again, good and bad things are things that we've decided on, that we've made up. But there are some community-wide accepted ideas of what's good and what's bad. And what's good is usually accepted as treating other people as they would like to be treated, or you would like to be treated. That assumes that you would like to be treated well. So I saw a viewer on the channel say that the golden rule should be treat other people as they would like to be treated. That makes a lot of sense. That usually means not hurting people or other beings unless you have to for some reason, whether that's out of self-defense or whether you have to kill a being in order to eat it to survive yourself, such as killing a plant to harvest it and eat it, to kill an animal to harvest it and eat it, to kill a fungus like a mushroom to harvest it and eat it. And that would typically be thought of as a good thing. Now, there's all kinds of variations to that. What if you house a bunch of animals for the sole purpose of eating them, and you house them in horrible living conditions where they live with their poop? They don't walk around. They don't see sunlight. They don't see plants, trees. There's disease running rampant among the animals because they're too crowded. Well, I think most people would say, that's a bad thing. That's doing a bad thing to the animals. But it's not so simple, because a lot of humans are fed by animal agriculture. So while people can agree, oh, it's really bad to treat animals that way, some people will say, oh, it's good that people have food to eat. But then others might say, oh, well, you don't need to eat animals, you could eat plants. If you ate plants, that's a good thing. But if you cut down a forest and you plant a monoculture of food and you kill all the other plants and fungi and animals that lived in that plot of land, was that a good thing or a bad thing? I think most people would say that was a bad thing. But it could be a good thing, because we have 8.2 billion people alive. So good and bad are not so easy to tease apart. In fact, I would say everything has good and bad in it. But the curious thing, and that's the subject of this talk, is when someone thinks they're a good person, they're not a bad person. I think that is the scariest thing out of anything that I've encountered in my life. Yeah. Scarier than almost drowning in the Pacific Ocean. I almost drowned twice in really big waves when I was surfing, and then my leash to my surfboard got ripped off and my surfboard got washed to shore and I was stuck out in the waves. That was really scary. But that's not as scary to me as someone who thinks they're a good person. Now there's a couple variations of this. And I think there's 4 possibilities. And it has to do with these variables. You think you're either a good or a bad person. And the other variable is you do good or bad things. Now, if you think you're a bad person and you do bad things, well, there's not much help for that person. And they're probably very destructive and will likely be stopped by other people. A bad person that knows they do bad things can do horrible things, but it's so horrible that they're likely stopped. Because most people will say, hey, you can't do that. Well, let's think about a bad person that someone who thinks they're bad, but they actually do good things. And actually that's a lot of people. Because we live in a culture that gaslights and abuses, that tells us that we're replaceable, we're not worth much, we're just hungry mouths to feed, we could be better, we're actually pretty bad, we're lazy, we're not good enough. There's a lot of places in the culture that tell us that. And so I think there's a lot of people that think they're actually bad. They're lazy, they're not good enough, but they try really hard to do good things because they want to be a good person. That's kind of like, it's kind of like the song from Billy Joel, "Only the Good Die Young." I think it's true that only the good die young. The people that actually do good, but they think they're bad. Well, they might actually think they're good too, but they just do good things. Like they just do what society tells them they should do. And even if they have second guesses about it. And maybe they don't feel quite right about it. I think, well, I've seen those people die early. Just like the song, "Only the Good Die Young." And I think it's because they deny themselves. They only do what society tells them they should do, and not what they feel like they should do or what they want to do. And I think that self-denial leads to health problems like cancer, obesity, depression, anxiety, sickness, depressed immune system. Well, now that we got 2 of the 4 categories out of the way, those are the people that think they're bad people. Now we can talk about the meat of this talk, which is the people that think they're good people. Now, if you think you're a good person and you do good things, I think that still falls into the category of only the good die young. Because society tells us that a lot of things are good, but they're actually not good for us in terms of our spiritual, mental, physical well-being. Society tells us, hey, you need to work overtime and prove to your boss that you're better, that you're more useful than your colleague, so that you don't get fired, you don't get laid off, you might get the promotion. And so you work overtime, you come home exhausted, drained. You may not have a partner, you might come home to an empty apartment, studio apartment. You might have a spouse and children, but you're so physically, emotionally, spiritually drained that you can't be present with them. You can't love them. In fact, you lash out at them. Well, that's not doing good after all. Maybe being such a good person in society wasn't worth it. Where it gets very interesting is the last category. Someone who thinks they're good but does bad things. You can call that person a hypocrite. They don't actually do what they say they do. They say that they do good things. They say they help people. They say that they love people. But what you see as an outside observer is that they hurt people. They hate people. They relish in destroying people. Yet, they don't think they're a bad person. They think they're a good person. There's a lot of religious people that fall in this category. There's a lot of patriotic people that fall in this category. There's a lot of people that hide behind something. A flag, a nation, a cross, a Bible, a Quran. They hide behind it and do horrible things. And they think they're a good person. Here's some concrete examples. My mind goes to an ICE officer. ICE is Immigration and Customs Enforcement Officer. Just a couple weeks ago, some ICE officers took a helicopter and landed on top of an apartment building in Chicago. And they stormed the building like they're rounding up terrorists in Afghanistan. But it's in Chicago. It's their fellow citizens. Now, a couple people living in the apartment were not legally citizens. But a lot were. But it didn't matter to the ICE officers. They busted down every single door in this whole apartment building, zip tied everyone, whether they had clothes on or not, whether they were an adult or a child. They separated the adults from their children. And they kidnapped everyone from the apartment building. Now, the people that were citizens, that are citizens of the country, were then later released after being terrorized, after being held at gunpoint, after being zip-tied and taken away from their home and separated from their children or their parents. A couple were illegally in the country and they were shipped off to an ICE facility where they're held. And then eventually either deported to some random country that is not necessarily where they came from. It could be some small country in Africa, like Eswatini. Some people have been deported there. I had to look up where Eswatini is. I had no idea. It's landlocked in South Africa. It's a country within another country. It's very tiny. But the people deported there didn't come from Eswatini. They came from elsewhere. They have no connections there. And now they're in prison in a country that they never came from. Other people are just sent to concentration camps inside this country and disappeared. Where did they go? Nobody knows. Are they alive? Are they dead? Who knows? But that ICE officer, I think, thinks they're a good person. They don't have to do that job. They do that job willingly. They get $50,000 bonus for signing up for this job. I think most ICE officers think they're doing a good thing for the country. They're protecting the country against those immigrants that are criminals. Because all the immigrants that are here illegally are criminals. They destroy the fabric of our society. They destroy our nation. And so, as an ICE officer, well, I gotta find those people. I gotta zip tie them, hold them at gunpoint, terrorize them, and throw them into a van that's unmarked. They don't even know if they're being kidnapped by real officers or somebody who's cosplaying as an officer. They don't know if they're gonna end up in a government facility or someone's basement, in a torture chamber where they're gonna be raped and murdered. But as an ICE officer, I'm a good person. So I'm doing a good thing for the country, and the country needs me. It's a necessary evil for the greater good. But I'm a good person. I come home to my wife and kids and I hug them and I love them. And I give them a kiss, and I'm providing a good paycheck for my wife and kids, and that's what matters. I'm a good person. Well, there's a lot of people that think they're good people and they do horrible things. The history books are littered with people committing ethnic cleansing, genocide. Ethnic cleansing is what's happening in this country, in the United States right now. The history books are littered with people that have done these things and they thought they were a good person. The curious thing about thinking you're a good person and forming your identity around doing good things is that once you adopt that identity, if you do a bad thing, well, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. Oh crap, I did a bad thing, but I'm a good person, so I don't do bad things. So what I did that was bad, it couldn't have been bad because I'm a good person. This is Olympic level mental gymnastics. but it happens all the time. There are a lot of Olympic level mental gymnastic athletes. Well, okay, that didn't come out very well. There are a lot of Olympic level mental gymnasts. Yeah, that sounds better. Is you gotta contort yourself in all sorts of ways to convince yourself that you're still a good person when you murder people, when you kidnap people, when you terrorize people, when you hate people because they look different or they talk different or they believe something different. You've got to twist yourself in all sorts of different ways to tell yourself you're a good person when you cut down forests, when you keep a bunch of animals in horrible conditions so you can murder them and eat them. Well, I think that's the scariest thing to me, is a person who thinks they're a good person. That's the scariest thing, and it's Halloween coming up. I want to run away from anyone who thinks they're a good person. There's a different way that we could live, and that is to accept that all of us have good and bad in us. That actions that we commit, they all have good and bad aspects to them. I think a better way to live, well, not necessarily a better way, a different way. A different way to live is to know that I am not entirely good, I am not entirely bad. I'm just a person. I'm a person that does good and bad things, that carries out actions that are both good and bad. I am capable of hurting myself and my neighbors, both human and non-human. I'm also capable of loving myself and loving my neighbors, both human and non-human. I'm also capable of lying to myself and doing those mental gymnastics to tell myself I'm a good person that can't do bad things while doing horribly bad things. I think a much healthier way of living is to accept that we all do good and bad things, and to really self-reflect. To think about what matters to me. What's important to me? What makes me feel good inside? Does it make me feel good to hurt my neighbors? Or does it make me feel good to love my neighbors and feel loved in return? When you hurt your neighbors, well, they're not gonna love you. They may hurt you back. When you love your neighbor, well, they might still hurt you, but they might love you back in return. If you love your neighbor and they hurt you, and you keep doing that, well, then you're not loving yourself. You're hurting yourself. There's healthy boundaries that need to be reinforced. Well, those are my thoughts about thinking you're a good person. I don't think I'm a good person. I don't think I'm a bad person. I think I'm just a person. I do good and bad things. And I need to watch out because I can lie to myself very easily. I need to sit and reflect about what I'm doing, what I really care about, what makes me happy, what makes me healthy, what's good for my well-being, both physically, emotionally, and psychologically, spiritually. what's good for my neighbors, both physically, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually. What's good for my neighbors that are not human, the other people, the non-human people. I think that's what makes sense to me. Not being a good person, just being a full person. A full person that is self-aware and aware of my interactions with my surroundings, the rest of the universe. Well, that's what I wanted to share today. Thanks for listening.